Well, thank you very much, I think. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me. I want to talk about Beyond Nuxt 4. And I have to emphasize that that title was chosen a very long time ago. Amazing. My slides are hopefully even working. So my name is Daniel Roe. I'm a full-time open source maintainer. So that means I spend all of my time fixing bugs, creating bugs, fixing those bugs. It's a wonderful cycle. I do also find some time to ship features every now and then. Most of my time is spent on Nuxt, which is a framework for building full-stack web apps that I will talk about in a moment. In fact, for considerably few moments over the next few minutes. But I'm also involved in other open source projects too, like Nitro, Fontaine, Magic, Regex, and more. You can find my details on my website, which is roe.dev. I'm on almost every social media platform except for Twitter, so feel free to connect with me and send me a DM if you have any questions. You might have something you want to ask after today's talk. I'd be really happy to answer that, so feel free. This is my cat, Barley. I live in the UK, in Edinburgh, where the weather is extremely different from here in Madrid. I've got to say I'm really enjoying the sunshine, even if we are totally shaded from it at the moment. It is nice to go outside into the sauna and then come back into the cool hotel. That's a wonderful thing. You will have discovered that there is a QR code, or you can just go to roe.dev live if you want at any point to add an emoji reaction to something that we are saying or talking about. You are free to do that. And I have some predefined some emojis, but you could put your own as well. There we go. Now I want to do a quick ask the audience. Because I'm talking about Nuxt, I'm going to say a few things about Nuxt and hopefully talk about Beyond Nuxt 4. But what do you think of Nuxt? If you think of it. You can scan that QR code. I'm sorry, there are a few QR codes. You can scan that QR code and just put a word. You could put a sentence, but keep it short. Just what do you think of Nuxt? What is Nuxt to you? Don't you love the magic, by the way, of WebSockets? So this is these are my slides running in SlideDev, which is a framework for slides. You just write them in Markdown, but you can embed Vue components in them. So I just have a Vue component which connects to a WebSocket server. And you can find the code for that on my website, which is open source. So when you submit a response, it goes into a room, and the WebSocket server sends an update to my slides, which is that's cool, isn't it? OK. People still filling that out? I think we'll be able to see it. OK. OK, this is a Wordle. With great beef, Daniel, good love. Even practical without core love, beef Daniel solution. This is a word cloud. It's not arranged in any kind of way, but you can see it involves Vue. Apparently, it's also awesome and amazing. Thank you very much. I will pay you later. So there are a few things. Nuxt is a progressive framework, so that means it should go with you from step 1 all the way up. So if you are starting a new project and you have no experience with Vue or Nuxt, you should be able to get going with very little effort. It should bring best practice. It should be very smooth and simple to use. This is our vision. I'm not saying we always deliver on it. But then it should be fully customizable. So as you build and you need more things, you're an agency building loads of sites, you're an enterprise with massive or very specialized needs, it should be fully customizable for you at that stage. We have some stars and we have some downloads. That's a download chart from NPM. All the numbers here are live. So I never know exactly what they will say or what the chart will look like until I load it. So this is just the current download stats. But this is something I'm more excited about. So this is a photo or a slide, again, also live, drawn from the GitHub API of the number of contributors that we have. So we have over 850 contributors. That's only a small fraction of them in the picture because GitHub doesn't expose an API for all contributors, just a limited subset. Nuxt is very much a community framework. So our direction is not shaped by any kind of VC company. We are for the community, by the community. And that matters a great deal to me, and I think to probably almost everyone who's involved in the project. And hopefully you can see some of your own faces there. I don't know if you spot them, but they are probably there. I see Adam, actually, Adam DeHaven in the third row there, and I'm sure I could spot some more if I look a little closer. We have a modules registry. Nuxt is, as I said, highly customizable, and part of how that works is that we allow people to ship their customizations. You can do it locally in your own project. You can have a private module, or you can ship it. And we have an open source repository of modules where you can put the metadata, which empowers things like users can install your module from the Nuxt DevTools or from the CLI. And you can browse them on the Nuxt website, or from this API, which is api.nuxt.com/modules, I think. You can have a look. And these are, again, live stats on the number of modules, maintainers, downloads, and so on. We really are what we are because of people who contribute and make Nuxt what it is. Nuxt would be a shadow of itself if it were just the work that the core team are doing. Sorry, Alex, and me. It is a community project. We do have some core modules, though, that we build and maintain as a core team, everything from content. You saw a lot of the work of that Adam was highlighting in his talk. ESLint, fonts, icon, image, scripts, test utils, UI, and we have 3 coming soon in the next year. Hints, accessibility, and auth utils. Nuxt Scripts, two modules we shipped this last year. So Nuxt Scripts offers built-in facade components and also a registry and also a generic interface for loading third-party scripts, and all focused on performance and best practice. So already the facade components that you can load are so much faster and more performant than the alternatives directly from the platforms. But we also provide support for loading with cookie consent, deferring loading until the page is interactive. One of the biggest negative contributors to user experience on the web is third-party scripts, because they often are heavy, they often want a lot of control, often they're about tracking, which involves like measuring what users are doing. And one of the most immediate ways you can make your sites more performant is and how to deliver a better user experience is to defer the loading of those third-party scripts until the site is actually hydrated and responsive to user input. Please consider using a library like Nuxt Scripts or implementing this yourself, but Nuxt Scripts aims to have best practice built in. And it also handles everything like SSR support for scripts, because often they are client-side only, but you still want to do things on the server when you're loading them, and Nuxt Scripts handles that for you. We even support, for example, bundling your scripts. If it's an appropriate use, as in if the third-party scripts allows it, you can actually include it in your bundle and serve it from a first-party origin rather than a third-party origin, which offers significant benefits in the EU, for example, in terms of lack of tracking. It's all under your own control, and you can handle the caching, for example. The hash is based on the content of the script. So lots of benefits there. We also ship Nuxt fonts. There are problems with using custom web fonts, things like you can easily have your configuration for the web fonts get out of sync with your actual usage of them. There's the necessity to do lots of things to do with best practice, like third-party origins, adding pre-connects. And you can have font waterfalls where they're not actually downloaded until the browser discovers the CSS, until then that actual element is used in the HTML. So there are lots of issues. And Nuxt Fonts aims to solve that, doing even more, for example, adding font metric-based overrides to reduce layout shift when you do load a font in your project. So this is the kind of thing that you might have noticed before, where you have a, we're just going to see if I can, come on. That's incredible. I'm not sure my interactive component is behaving very well at the moment. Let's see why that might be. hard reload. Actually, my whole... How weird. We're going to ignore that. The script is slowing down this page. After minutes ago, I was bragging about the joy of inserting interactive elements in your slides. Now we see the real cost. It is probably Vue Router that's doing this. It's only because I see Eduardo's face. It's not Vue Router. I don't know exactly what it is, but we're not. It seems to be probably something I hastily coded before coming on screen. Nuxt Fonts does a lot of wonderful things. And it handles layout shift. So in this case, we're not even getting that happen because the component isn't loading. But this actually could be, for example, an instance of layout shift, where you get some text loading, then another font comes, and then maybe it goes from 2 lines down to 1 line. And Nuxt Font handles that for us. Try it one more time. No luck. And it does it like this. So it spots your use of a font family in your CSS. It then creates a font face declaration for you. It uses a library called Unifont, which I also created, to handle a universal access to all font APIs, like Google Fonts, Bunny Fonts, Font Share, and more. We have, I think, 7 different font APIs. Including, I think, Adobe. It even supports local fonts that you just drag and drop into your public folder in your project. It will create that font face for you. Again, no third-party script connects, so this is fine in Germany. And then it creates that the font metrics, which basically move your fallback font into the shape of the custom web font, so that there is a minimum of layout shift when it actually loads. Now I have before I say my next thing, I just want to do a quick poll of the room. How many of you are using Nuxt? And I just also want to just highlight at this point how clever I am, because I have only given you 2 options. And those 2 options are yes and not yet. I'm not actually highlighting how clever I am. It was a joke. That was also a joke. You are on board. OK, I have a gift for you, for those of you who are not using Nuxt. I'm releasing a package called Fontless. And if you haven't heard about it, Fontless is basically Nuxt fonts extracted from Nuxt and usable as a Vite plugin. So it has 0 runtime overhead, just like Nuxt Fonts does. It's a collaboration with the Quick dev team. So like Astro reached out and asked if they could use some of the libraries I created to build their own fonts integration. They really didn't need to ask. It was very nice. The reason I created them as libraries was for precisely this. But then the Quick team said, hey, could we do something similar for Quick? And by the time they explored it, they said, well, actually, all the code is already written, and it's already in Nuxt Fonts. Shall we just refactor it? So we've pulled it all out into a separate library called Nuxt Fonts. It uses the metric-based fallbacks that I talked about, supports all the different providers, and is framework agnostic. We have tests running with Vue, Pure Vue, React, Solid, Svelte, Quick, and more. So if you're using a Vite-based project, you can have all the goodness of Nuxt Fonts. But it would still be better if you decided to use Nuxt at the end of the day, as far as my ego is concerned. OK, we're going to talk a little bit about Nuxt and where we're going. And so I have this question, which I often get asked, which is, where is Nuxt going in 10 years' time? I don't know where you think. Is this something you've ever wondered, like what's going to happen to Nuxt? And the answer, I'll give you an answer in a moment. But first I want to ask you a question, which is this. What skill do you value most? Just in your own mind. What skill as a developer, what ability as a developer do you value most? Do you think is most useful, most valuable for you in that? Okay. I would like, if I could have one, a volunteer. Is someone willing to come up and take a typing test? And I'll take a typing test too, and we'll see which of us wins. Yes. Only one hand. The hand of a brave person in the middle of the room. Okay. Can everyone see this? Is that a good size? The keyboard might be a bit unfamiliar.
No.
Is it okay?
Yeah.
Okay, whenever you are happy, feel free to kick off. Let's see, 15 seconds, that seems good. Okay, go for it. Whoa. Yeah. Whoa. Really nice. Do you want to do it again?
Yeah, I could try.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Only if you want? I think just, yeah. Whoa! That's amazing. Well done. Well done. I'll do it too. I'll do a different one. Okay. Are we okay? Good? Yeah. Ah! Ah! I have lost. I have been defeated.
Wasn't I?
You were faster. You were 111. You was 111, wasn't he? Everyone give him a round of applause. Christian. Thank you. So I wanted to do this test because I think it is an example of a totally useless skill. And my answer wouldn't have changed based on the result. So I think it is an example of something that it matters only to the extent that it doesn't hold you back. So if you're trying to get your ideas down on paper, the sole purpose of your ability to type is not to hold you back, not to add arbitrary friction between your idea and what you're doing, right? You shouldn't have to think about it. I think that that is the ability that is most valuable as a developer. And you might disagree with me. I think effortlessness is the thing I would pick. Not focus, not intelligence even, but effortlessness. The ability to get from idea smoothly to implementation. You think about a bird flying, it doesn't have to think about that, it just does it. It's just perfect idea to experience. And the thing is, typing, imagine you can type really quickly, but you're having to think about it every moment. It takes you out of that flow state, out of the ability to do magic. Because let's be honest, what we do as developers is magic. We take ideas and we make them into reality without the necessity of almost any intervening steps. We don't have to go out and buy raw materials for our no punch cards, no wood and hammers and nails. It's not required. It's only thought translated into code. And that is an incredible thing. And it's also very much what we aim for with Nuxt. And I think probably many other libraries and projects too. But this is why we aim for it. Because Nuxt needs to be in 10 years' time where we need it to be. The aim is to, as much as possible, get rid of the friction that causes us to stop, delay, be broken out of that flow state, and move us into a place where creating a website that is good for our end users is as effortless as it is possible to be. And I'm not saying we're there, by the way. I'm saying this is where I want us to be. This is the aim and the purpose. Because the answer is, where will Nuxt be in 10 years' time, is well, what are our needs as developers in 10 years' time? Nuxt isn't this sort of separate thing that's just sort of going its own way. Nuxt only exists as a framework, like, again, many other frameworks, because we as developers encounter issues. We have difficulty setting up server-side rendering, or it was difficult to set up a Webpack configuration, or we find we're copying and pasting the same things from project to project, or we don't know everything that there is to know about font subsetting and layout shift with font metric fallbacks, and so we can get the people who are experts in those things to build it into a framework that can make our experience effortless. That's the aim, and that's the objective. So the answer is, Nuxt will be in 10 years' time, where we have to ask the question, where will the web be in 10 years' time? What will our needs be in 10 years' time? And then hopefully we can answer that question. But here are some things that we're doing, and some things that we're building. So in the last couple of releases, here are some highlights. We've joined in with the Ecosystem Cleanup Initiative from E18E. I really want to highlight these, the team of people doing this. If you want to get involved in open source, there's so much to get involved with in the E18E initiative. They are cleaning up our dependencies. I don't mean Nuxt dependencies, the dependencies of all developers looking in node modules. There are polyfills of libraries that haven't been needed since the release of Node 5. That are somehow, or early nodes anyway, that like they have support for like node 0. What? It's not required. We have array is array. We have object has own prototype. We do not need polyfills for these things. And we're moving to lighter dependencies in Nuxt, like dropping CJS outputs and saving that enormous black hole of a space which is node modules. There's some other things we're doing as well. So we are shipped lazy hydration in Nuxt. So it's possible, for example, in Vue, if you're just using Vue, to implement this, but our aim is to make it as simple as possible. So you can have components that hydrate when they're visible. You can have components that hydrate when they are interacted with, clicked. Components that hydrate based on the width of a window or some other media query. Components that hydrate when the browser is idle and has a moment to do it. Components that hydrate after a certain amount of time. Components that hydrate on some arbitrary condition. That's basically an escape hatch for you to do whatever you want. And components that never hydrate. And just to be clear, this is only about that first load. So when you're hydrating static HTML from the server. On client-side navigation, if a new component is loaded in, it always has to hydrate, of course. We also shipped a new major version of the Nuxt dev tools with support for things like observing your configuration, so you can know, if you're encountering some issue, what module changed it, for example. We're coming soon will be support for server waterfall metrics. So you can actually see not just what's happening in the browser where there's already a beautiful graph, but actually what happened on the server and what timings were involved. So by the way, this is one of the most significant contributors to poor SSR performance is stuff people do in waterfall-based patterns, where they'll load some data, and then based on that, they'll load some other data, and maybe they await every single one of these things, and you don't notice it, or maybe they make dozens of calls, and they're not realizing how many times they're even calling the same endpoint. This is the kind of thing that will give visibility to that. Anthony's built a Nuxt MCP server that runs in your dev tools, so that if you're using something like Cursor or GitHub Copilot, you can plug it in and actually use data from that exact running project for your LLM to be prompting. And we're actually doing a little bit more on that, because this is a new problem that developers are facing, a new friction point, which is what do you do with when you need somehow to provide context and documentation and information to LLMs who are assisting you in your job, which is creating a project. So we're versioning our docs, which we're releasing as an NPM package, which allows us to expose just the version of the documentation for the composables that you're using that it applies to you, to your LLM. We have a public Nuxt MCP server, which you can use today. Just go to that URL, and it will give you the code to stick into your IDE, and we expose our documentation via the LLM's text standard as well. In 3.16, we had a real focus on performance. And that was because the Nuxt dev server, the startup time was slowing down. So we built some internal tooling to have a look at what functions were being called and how many times. So for example, the install, this is in our Nuxt test fixture. We found we were calling install module like 1,700 times. We were resolving path like hundreds and hundreds of times. And hundreds and hundreds of times, and the total time was like 1.7 seconds, 1.3 seconds, or 0.9 seconds. And so we worked for 3.16 to improve those numbers, and we managed to get them down considerably, so that the longest amount of time that was being taken was entirely separate utility call. And the total startup time went, again, on a large project, this is actually Nuxt.com, went from 2.9 second startup to 1.3, which was a significant improvement that basically immediately benefited everyone. And there's still more work to be done here, but it's definitely something where we want to work to make that first start better and easier. We also shipped a new CLI, a new Create Nuxt project. So you can simply type create Nuxt, npm create Nuxt, or pnpm create Nuxt, pick a directory, and then get going. So obviously the ASCII art is amazing. It was sourced from a very kind person on Blue Sky. Oh, and we also detect your package manager automatically. So if you're running pnpm create, we'll default installing your deps that way. And there's more coming soon. This is part of a whole initiative around making it easier to get going with Nuxt. So we have this create Nuxt command is smaller and lighter than Nuxi was before, and your Nuxt command, your Nuxt dev and whatever in your project, is also lighter and uses dependencies from your project rather than having everything inlined. In the next minor release of Nuxt, we'll also have support for not just the core modules, which are already supported, of course, but for any module that you want. And we're shipping hooks, so modules can provide their own wizards for first install and upgrade to add much more of what people want. So in Nuxt 2, we had a complex wizard where everything was baked into the binary. Our idea is decentralize it, so enable modules to provide their own wizards to enable a better experience when you're starting projects. And this is all, by the way, totally configurable. You can provide your own templates, even today. And I just want to take one moment to say, isn't this extremely cool that I have a div, these are divs, and this is a real shell on my computer, and it's a WebSocket server. I'm sorry, it's not that important. But I thought it was very cool. And thank you. That's excellent. Very cool. We also shipped Nuxt Time, which is a new built-in component for Nuxt that respects the user's locale, but it lets you do SSR-safe time rendering. So for example, you can render the current date, and that's not going to trigger a hydration issue on the client side, no matter when the user views it. And it will also it will render using the user's locale, so whatever their browser would normally render that date as. And you can specify all the formatting options that you can pass to intel.datetime format. You can even use relative date time, and again, no hydration issues. So that's something I'm pretty excited about. We initially shipped it as a separate module, but now we've rolled it into Nuxt. We're working on performance. Now this is very experimental, so you won't have experienced this yet, but we're working on streaming HTML. I have a sample branch open. I haven't opened the PR yet. We've moved to integrate the payload cache with the browser. This actually has shipped and has led to a significant decrease in runtime memory usage for Nuxt users. And we have some pre-rendering optimizations coming. So here's one example. So when you have a project which has lots of dynamic imports, which is often how Vite handles like components that are shared between different pages, we can now run a rebundling step to take all of that into a single file and use an import map to ensure that as you navigate through your site, subsequent imports of those initial files get redirected to that initial file. It's almost no downside and basically changes something that was previously like throttling your, contributing to filling up the number of parallel requests you can have in the browser into a single request. So this seems like a zero downside for generated websites. So we'll be shipping that hopefully soon in the Nuxt rebundle module, and maybe soon in core. And we're also doing things like spotting opportunities to improve your performance with static rendered websites. So in use async data, if you're pre-rendering a website, whatever is the content of that use async data call doesn't run at runtime. It runs at build time. So that actually means we can separate it out into a virtual file and therefore into a chunk, so that at runtime we don't even have to load it if you don't have to refresh the data for some reason. And most people don't need to refresh the data because it's just purely static. So we can drop quite a lot of bits of your code from the bundle. We tried it out on Nuxt.com. It led to a reduction in 39% of JavaScript required to render the page, and 66% reduction in unused JavaScript. So I'm pretty excited about those changes. Also coming soon, a Nuxt runtime, like a core Nuxt library that won't change deployment to deployment, that allows you to have multi-app support. So you could have one page deployed separately, but imported into an app running in a different deployment. And you can pull it in at runtime, you could pull in a component, you could pull in a composable. And that will just be dynamically imported. It would be able to use the same Nuxt runtime that you're using for that site. So that is maybe exciting for those who have big enterprise apps and are looking for deploying their Nuxt layers separately. So I want to talk about Nuxt 4. Because I have to, really. The talk title was decided in advance, but actually it is very convenient in terms of time. Nuxt 4, I should say first, is not about hype. So when I took over as lead of the Nuxt team, one of the things we wanted to do straight away was set up a clear release schedule so we could be accountable to when things were changing. So the plan is every week or so for patches, fixing bugs, every month or so for features, adding new features via a minor release, and every year or so for major changes. Those are breaking changes. So Nuxt 4 isn't therefore about features, cool as they might be. We try and ship those without hype month after month. Nuxt 4 is about thoughtful breaking changes, and we've spent a lot of time thinking about how to make opting in and out of those changes as easy as possible for people, so that we don't have a recurrence of the Nuxt 2 to 3 migration, which we will not speak about. So our focus has been on the migration experience, and we've spent some time doing that, but honestly our plan was to release it last year, and we had a release timetable, and we would release in June 13, I think was our original plan. We were shipping a number of cool things, breaking changes technically, but they would enable better performance and we thought would be more intuitive. So we were going to have a new default directory structure with an app folder. No relation to the Next.js app folder, just a different organization method. More performant defaults in async data, for example, so having shallow reactive payloads. What Juan was saying earlier about sort of deeply watching your form state. It's a terrible thing, isn't it, when you find that that is the case, and that was the case in Nuxt 3 for use async data by default. So we're changing that with more precise reactivity, more performant. It is technically a breaking change, though, so we have to tell people about it and give you a migration strategy. I have some data fetching changes, including shared pre-render data, which I don't have enough time to get into today, but is an amazing feature, which you'll really enjoy. It stops the same API request from happening every time you're pre-rendering a bunch of pages, and means it will only be run once and then shared across all those pages, just automatically. Parallel data fetching and better, more sane defaults for data and error. And because our focus has been on migration, it is easy. You can opt in to the Nuxt 4 breaking changes that we've implemented with future compatibility version. And you stick that in your Nuxt config and you are there. You can then go through and turn them off with configuration because we want it to be opt-in and opt-out to help you migrate. And so we have documentation. We have a code mod that the code mod team built. And you can take a look at this PR I created just the other week for Elk. I created it in 15 minutes. Migrating that project to, it's a big project, migrating that project to the Nuxt 4 compatibility mode. It's like 1,000 lines of change, but 15 minutes. It wasn't a huge amount of time because a lot of that change was just moving files into a different place. And you can already go ahead and start a new Nuxt 4 style project by passing this template flag when you're creating a new Nuxt project. So if you have tried it, would you tell me how long it took you to migrate from Nuxt 3 to this compatibility mode? You might not have tried it, so then you're just still waiting. But I would really love to know. Do you have any idea? Was it less than a day, less than a week, less than a month, more than a month? Still waiting? This is from version 3 to the compatibility mode 4. Cool. Thank you for letting me know. Well, a lot of people have been trying out compatibility mode 4. And I want to talk about the roadmap to actually getting there, to Nuxt 4. So this is where we were. And Nuxt was started in 2016. We released 3 in November 2022. And we planned version 4 for June of last year. And that time came and went. We've been waiting for the release of Nitro, which is one of our key dependencies, and it plans a major release to version 3, and that has been imminent for the last year. But sadly, this has been me over the last year, and this has also been a lot of users of Nuxt. So, announcing for the first time, unofficially today, the official announcement will go out on Monday. Okay? So this is me and a room full of my closest friends. If you do post about it on publicly, super publicly, try and keep people in some amount of suspense. But obviously, you can do whatever you like. But it would be more fun, maybe, if you know and they don't. I'm just saying. Our aim is to release an alpha on Monday. With the release candidate on the 23rd of June, and the final release on the 30th of June. Now, we'll then start work on version 5. Let me explain what the plan is. Because this is very quick, right? It's not quick enough to adopt Nitro 3. Even if Nitro 3 is released tomorrow, there is no way we can fully test it, migrate it out, and help people who've been using compatibility version 4 for the last year to suddenly adjust to all the breaking changes that Nitro will bring, even though we'll try and keep them as minimal as possible. So our idea is that we're going to, in this time, migrate modules to use the new version 4 release candidate. Now, version 4 is going to be basically Nuxt as it is now with compatibility version 4. Because if you've opted into compatibility version 4, you have had no protection. You've benefited from all the features we've built. It is more performant, there are better defaults, all of that, but there's nothing protecting you on the way of Semver. So even Nuxt patch releases might break your setup. And it terrifies me when I hear that people are on compatibility 4 in production, even though I'm trying not to break anything. So what Nuxt 4 will bring is stability and a stable migration step for people who are wanting to move from version 3 onward. It also means that from a Nuxt point of view, we are formally detaching our release schedule from Nitro. Nitro has its own release schedule. There are good reasons it hasn't been released for a year. That's no criticism of the Nitro project. Many of us on the Nuxt team are on the Nitro team as well. We are not pointing the finger of blame at ourselves. But it is right that Nuxt be versioned separately. We shouldn't be holding up features and better changes for users because of delays in the Nitro project. And so that is what we are doing with our new release schedule for Nuxt 4, and that will be the same going forward. we will version Nuxt independently. So we're going to be taking time to migrate packages on the Nuxt modules registry to the new version, where we possibly can, look for breaking changes and issues that we haven't previously addressed, stabilize it, test it, and update the docs, and then release Nuxt 4 finally, before then starting to release and work on Nuxt 5. So looking to the future, version 3 is going to be maintained, as we've said, consistently for 6 months after the release of version 4 stable. That's going to put it at the end of December this year. I'm going to say I'm making it 6 months because I believe the migration is so straightforward from 3 to 4. If I see an issue and someone says this is terrible and we can't migrate, I'm going to revisit whether it's 6 months or longer. But I believe it is a straightforward and simple migration and should be very doable in a period of 6 months. We're going to then, obviously version 4 will be released, and it will be maintained until 6 months after the release of version 5. I expect right now that version 5 will be relatively soon, because our aim is not to delay our ability as Nuxt users to benefit from Nitro version 3 when it's released. So there's going to be no arbitrary delay. You might find that you suddenly have major version fatigue. What? Version 4 last week and version 5 this week? I hope that's going to be the experience. I don't know exactly when Nitro will come out, but it might be something for you on Monday. So this is our plan. This is our roadmap, and I'm pretty excited about it. It has been made possible by a whole lot of work by the whole team. And you'll see the core team there, people like Puya and Sebastian and Anthony and Alex and me and others. And you also see the ecosystem team. I don't know if you know much about the ecosystem team, but I want to shout out them. The ecosystem team is a group of people who are involved in maintaining Nuxt modules or key libraries, or who are creating, I hate the term, content on the internet to help other people. And it is very, very valuable because, as I said, we are a community project. We are not driven by some external agenda. We are driven by our agenda. It's a chance to dive deeper, to participate in weekly meetings. And if you do know anyone you think would be an excellent fit for the ecosystem team, please let me know. I routinely find people I thought were part of it that I haven't asked and should. So please let me know if any of those requirements seems to be met by somebody. I promise it's not a slight that they haven't been invited already. And if you want to get involved in either building something with Nuxt or contributing, I can say that one of my main aims is for Nuxt to be a welcoming, inclusive, and diverse community. We're working on a new user portal on Nuxt.com where you'll be able to track your projects and the other resources you have. You can go to nuxters.nuxt.com today and unlock a custom Discord badge if you want. Discord and GitHub are the places to go for help. And I should say, I have an open diary. So if for whatever reason you want to grab 10 minutes of my time and have a chat, I would be really happy to do that if that would be helpful in any way. So you can go to roe.dev chat. So that is, it doesn't have to be about Nuxt. It doesn't have to be about contributing to Nuxt. If there's some way, though, that I can help you, maybe particularly if you want to get involved in open source, or you feel like you're not quite of the right background, you feel like you're not exactly like the maintainers, you're not sure if you would be welcome, please talk to me, because I would love to tell you would definitely be welcome in any of my projects. And I can tell you a little bit about behind the scenes in open source if you've got questions. If you have a PR you want me to review before you take the step of opening it publicly, let me know. I would be more than happy to do that. If there is anything, just ask. And if you want to take things further, obviously you can find the Nuxt docs. This QR code is a starter pack of Nuxt ecosystem team members on Blue Sky, and you can follow all of them in one click if you would like to do that. I should say only thank you very much for having me. It has been a delight and a pleasure to come talk and share with you our plans for what happens beyond Nuxt 4.